Hasselriis. This is my art gallery, and it's called the Assemblage, and behind these windows are many of the objects that I have put together in the form of assemblages and collages, and I'd be very happy if you would like to visit my place and see what's on the inside. It's loaded with objects of affection, as I call them, which was the title of an exhibition I had in Catskill some 10 years ago. I think it's time for you to open the door, come through the door, and see what I have. Yeah, this is an example of what I call a software assemblage, using all different types of fabrics, scrap yarn balls and other kinds of sewing materials, all put together in the racks. That's an old pool ball rack that these pieces have been assembled in. And there's not a single screw or nail or glue that's been used. They're just wedged into the racks and can be moved around if you're tempted to do that. Yeah, this is one of my musical compositions, which simply uses 4 metronomes set at different speeds to give this effect of horses galloping, or whatever you want to call it. This is the organization motto. This is a special collage incorporating many varieties of ephemera gathered together for a special barn exhibition in Cooperstown, New York. That's a new software piece that I did. That's the last one in that family. This is an assemblage in an old cheese factory tray, and the title of it is "Norman, Is That You?" And of course, every one of my pieces is a self-portrait to some extent. And this one is particularly aimed to be a self-portrait. I want to introduce you to a special friend. here. This is Arthur. You can call him Art. Yeah, I should introduce you here to one of my former wives. This was my 6th wife. I forget her name. There are a couple of pieces here which are sort of germane. The question is how to put them together. See, one of the great romantic stories here concerns the bowerbird. See, this is the bowerbird, and the bowerbird's discovery the bowerbird, you know, builds a little bower of all kinds of objects. And one day when I was working on this, I started working on this bird, and I realized that the bowerbird, who was the bowerbird? I'm the bowerbird, and over here is the bowerbird's mate, who was eventually discovered up here. And that's a true story. You will see that there are many of these assemblages that incorporate parts of dolls, and many of these pieces are dolls in a way. They're basically playthings. That you can see here a great variety of pieces, and the essence of my story of becoming an artist, as I explain to people who come to my gallery, is the great gift that I gave myself. I gave myself the freedom to play as I like, and then I accepted that gift. And ever since then, I've been playing to my own delight, and thankfully to the entertainment of people who visit my gallery. In a sense, I'm really not an artist, I'm just an entertainer. And most of my works are designed to amuse people or to give them a new sense of form, as in some of the more sculptural works. As you see, there's a basic principle in many of these pieces, and that is the principle of motion. I incorporate various types of elements that are movable, and those are some of the most respected pieces here. And this is a special piece which is really a great percussion instrument. These are simply old shoe trees which have been mounted on this, and it acts like a drum. Well, it's really funny because although I retired from the big business world practically 25 years ago and have made sort of a living as an antiques dealer and classified myself as a socially secure artist, but I still have dreams of unemployment. After all of those years, I still have job seeking dreams, dreams of unemployment, occasionally the dream of being a big executive.
Or nightmare.
Now this is a very good object to wear if you're out hunting laundry. There are lots of clothespins there. Well, these are some of the special characters that I enjoy putting together. They're basically like dolls. They're basically characters made up of various kinds of objects and materials, and they're one of my best-selling lines. They're all unfinished. They really aren't finished until they find a new home. Now what you're looking at here is a variety of pieces incorporating different elements, mostly antique. Almost all of the materials that I work with are antique or old. And this is an example of a piece that I regard primarily as a sculptural piece. And it's not designed to be particularly amusing, but it was fun to make, and it just involves nailing, I don't know how many nails into a round wooden ball. Now this is a piece of sculpture, as distinguished from the pieces that are really designed to be more amusing. Now you're looking now at some of the newer pieces that I've done, which are sort of overflowing. This is my workshop area where I have stored many of my materials all the way up to the ceiling and hanging from the ceiling. These are relatively new pieces done this summer, for which I don't have enough space out in the gallery, and they're waiting for space to be created. Now, this is a relatively simple little piece, and it employs some ceramic marbles mounted in a little pen and pencil holder. And this is one of my favorite kind of pieces because it's simple and it has an element of motion to it and a little color. I think the most difficult pieces of all to discover, to do, are the simple ones. It's very easy to do a complex piece, but finding a piece that works with simple materials and with almost no labor, I think that's one of the greatest experiences that an artist can have. You see? It's a toy. It's something to play with. Now it's pretty obvious what this is. It's a brush sharpener. You can also use it if you want to paint. It makes rotary paintings. And this is an interesting little piece. This again illustrates the principle of play. This is a game without a score. And all of the elements here are movable, and you can do with whatever you like with them. So that way it becomes your game. Well, this is nothing at all. It's just a contraption. And it just mounts a number of different things that mostly don't have any moving parts. But it is, again, a kind of toy to play with. I think some of the most interesting pieces are very simple, like this, which juxtapose a soft material, right, with very sharp nails. This is a kitzel that was used to break up flax, and it has sharp nails, and this is just the soft versus the sharp. Makes for a very interesting combination of textures. This is my workshop area, which is very crowded with materials that I can draw upon when I get an idea or look for something to combine with something else. My materials are stacked up to the ceiling, and this is where most of my actual work is done. I call it work. It's really not work at all. It's really just play. And I have to keep reminding myself that I have the great luxury of being free to play as I like with my toys. And so this is really where I become a boy again, where I become young and I am free to play the way I like. Over in here, I have my various kinds of junk piled up in trays that I can very quickly access when I'm looking for something to go with something else. This is a convenient way to have things organized, and there's really nothing here of anything of great value, but here and there is something that will fit with something else. And things are piled up to the ceiling where I can get at them in a minute or 20 seconds. These are pieces I'm just beginning to work upon. I hope you've enjoyed this little brief tour of my gallery and workshop. It's very crowded. I would welcome a visit here. I'm located in the little, it's called a hamlet, the hamlet of Oak Hill, with a relatively small population and a number of antique dealers right nearby on Main Street. My gallery is generally open weekends and sometimes often by chance, and I welcome people who are interested in browsing there's no obligation to buy. I'm basically here in the entertainment business. I amuse myself, and I'm very pleased if other people are also amused and perhaps inspired to do something a little different, as I've tried to do. I think when I reflect upon what I do, that my greatest secret, the greatest secret behind my works of assemblage and collage is the fact that essentially I'm a poet, I'm a writer, and was a writer long before I began to find expression through various media, art media. I have written several books of poetry, and my works of assemblage I define as forms of objective poetry. All of these pieces are poetic in a sense. They're metaphors for the human condition and for human experience. So I regard these, I have a book here which is called Mingles, and these are examples of some of my poems that are also forms of assemblage, just done by clipping out headlines and pasting them together in the form of poetry. That's the title of my little book called Mingles. And you are welcome to come and mingle with my pieces. Now this is my sculpture garden, or some parts of it that you can see. And this area, when I moved in here 15 years ago, was all empty of vegetation. And I feel that this is my most important work, and has certainly taken more time than anything else I've done. And it gives me greater pleasure than any other work that I've done. I consider this my most important work, partly because of the amount of labor that's gone into it, but more so because of the pleasure that I get and the relaxation that I get in the garden, which slopes down gradually to the Catskill Creek. I invite many people to visit it, but it's strange how few people want to spend 5 minutes enjoying a garden. This is a small part of the garden. The garden gradually slopes down to the Catskill Creek, which was in flood just a few days ago. And over here you can see one of my recent constructions, which is just rocks on the steps of an old stepladder, which will stand there through the winter. The stones are loosely placed on the steps of the old stepladder, and they can be moved around and changed as much as you like. And this is my favorite tree, the contorted hazelnut, which really looks even better in the winter with all its twisted and gnarled branches against the snow. But it's a very beautiful tree, and it's related to me in a very close sense because my name is Hasselriis, means hazel tree. When I first arrived here after buying the place in nearly wintertime, the first spring season that I spent here was spent in the garden and down in the creek. I collected limbs and all kinds of found objects along the banks of the creek, and collected stones and brought them up here and used them as stepping stones throughout the garden, and used them to build walls and to build a little patio out here which overlooks the creek. At this time of the year there's not very much in bloom, but there are a few morning glories visible here. You know, this is one of my favorite pieces. It's just based upon an old wagon wheel rim which has been mounted on a tree stump And every spring I plant these morning glories to climb up around it. They're a little late this year because I planted them late, and they're just coming into bloom in early September. These are the fans of the garden club. This is really in the nature of a temporary assemblage, a seasonal assemblage, just using an old ladder to give the morning glories lots of space to climb upon. Thank you for coming to visit me here. I'll remind you that my name is Norman Hasselriis. That's an old Danish name. My father was an artist, a miniature painter. I didn't get any instruction from him. I had to find my own way as an artist, and I've had a lot of fun doing that. I live here in Oak Hill, New York, on Route 81, and I welcome visitors to my gallery, the Assemblage, anytime. Be glad to have your company, whether you browse or find a piece to your pleasure. I will welcome your visit anytime.